Hello, and welcome to Bee in Your Bonnet, the show where we share our unsolicited advice on a range of stories sourced from the vast corners of the internet. My name is Zander.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Cole. And we have each handpicked one story from Reddit, Facebook, and other online communities to discuss with each other today.
So kick back, relax, and let us guide you through the internet's most captivating tales while giving you advice you never knew you needed.
All right, guys. So today we like to have a little theme going on each day. In today's theme, we decided to talk about stories that involve pets. So who has something they would like to share first today?
I've got one.
All right.
This one is about a roommate. So these are roommates. And I'm going to tell you the title first. And then maybe your impressions with the title, and then I'll tell the story. So the title is, Would I Be the A-Hole If I Kept My Roommate's Emotional Support Dog from Him?
Okay.
My initial response is yeah. Let's hear their reasoning.
Okay. So it says, I, a 25-year-old male, have a 14-year-old miniature poodle named Jack. He's laid back, very sweet, very chill. And I have a roommate who's a 23-year-old male. And he's decided that Jack would make the perfect emotional support dog for him. He says Jack understands his trauma in a way no other dog could. He's asked me if I would give him Jack, but he can't afford to take care of him, so I would still have to pay for everything. Of course, I said no. I'm not giving up my dog for anything, but especially if I'd still have to pay for everything for him. Now, anytime my attention is away from Jack, my roommate tries to take him in his room and close the door to keep him in there. Most of the time, Jack won't go with him since he prefers sticking with me. The only time it's an issue is when I go to work. I work night shifts, so I leave around 11:30 and get home around 6 a.m. When I get home, I let Jack outside, feed him, then I go to bed. Jack comes with me. But my roommate has started waiting to go to bed until after I leave, so Jack will go to his room with him once I'm gone. So he leaves for work at 11:30.
The roommate waits to go to sleep until then.
Until after 11:30. Yeah. And so he says, I don't really care that Jack goes with my roommate while I'm at work, but the problem is that when I get home, I have to wait an hour or two because he's getting home, what did he say, 6:30 a.m. He says I have to wait an hour or two for my roommate to get up before I can take care of Jack. And it's really causing a problem with my sleep schedule. This is especially bad because I go to school during the day, so I only get at most 6 hours of sleep. So I'm losing an hour or two, and that's a big deal. I'm thinking about putting Jack in my room before I leave for work, but I'm not sure if I'd be the a-hole since my roommate wants Jack as an emotional support animal.
Can't take back what I said. NTA, not. Yeah. I mean, how do you ask someone? I'm assuming that he's had the dog since it was a puppy, which maybe is not correct. I mean, he doesn't give us that information, it sounds like. But the dog is 14 years old.
Yeah.
So it's safe to assume that he's had the dog for several years. I mean,
you usually don't adopt a 14-year-old dog.
Right. But I mean, most people view their dog, in my opinion, erroneously, as like a member of the family. I mean, if you've had the dog for that long, I mean, you're already bonded to. To me, it's ludicrous to ask them for the dog.
Yeah, the ask itself seems out of line.
It sounds like he's asking, give me the dog, but also I can't pay for anything, and also I can't take care of him at all.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like part of the problem here is that he needs to take care of the dog, and like to be able to take care of the dog is messing up his sleep schedule, and it wouldn't be an issue if this roommate would actually do the things to take care of the dog. I don't know.
No,
is that your impression of the story too?
Well, I was thinking that he just wanted to keep the dog with him to keep him away from the roommate. But I guess you're right. A compromise there could easily be, he says, I like the dog to be with me when I'm asleep. And he says, okay, then you need to do the dog taking care of things.
Yeah, that would help. Also, I don't see why it's a problem. When he gets home from work, just open the roommate's door and, does he say the dog's name?
Jack.
Jack, to be like, come on, Jack. And I mean, Jack would just jump down from the bed and go with him. I mean, dogs are very light sleepers, and it's not like he has to go in and shake him to wake him up.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's keeping the dog like cuddled up with him in bed. But yeah, I think this guy is being too nice to his roommate.
Yeah, he needs to kind of lay down the law.
Yeah, and say, hey, I get home at 6:30. That means you're waking up at 6:30, and I'm taking my dog.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe a new roommate. I thought that one was pretty straightforward, though, so.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I'm also wondering, like, why is the roommate home all day, every day to be with the dog? I mean,
yeah,
it sounds like he needs a lot of emotional support.
Yeah. Or just to start doing something with his life so he won't need so much emotional support. I mean, just sitting around stewing all day, that's the worst thing for your...
It is hard to know when you don't have the details.
That's true. We don't have the details.
Yes.
We don't have the details.
But just in general, based off of this, if an emotional support dog is what this guy needs, he needs to get his life in order so he can support an emotional support dog.
Yeah. I'm still just getting over the whole asking somebody for their dog of several years.
Yeah, I mean that's for sure that's not happening.
Yeah. not even consideration.
Yeah. Anyways, there's my little opener.
All right.
Zander,
do you have one, or
I've got one.
Mine?
Yeah, I can do mine.
Okay.
This one comes to us from Reddit. My 16-year-old daughter, Susie, has become pretty determined to have a pet fox. She's done impressive amounts of research and says she knows that they're expensive, but she could put $200 to $300 a month towards it. She has a part-time job. I spent about a day doing research and told her that if she can find a fox rescue to volunteer at for a couple of months and she can build a suitable enclosure in our yard, then she can get a pet fox. I sort of expected this to deter her, but it doesn't seem like it. Within a week, she'd found a wildlife rescue place half an hour away, and she's been going to volunteer there one day a week for the past 3 weeks. She also started researching how to build an enclosure and had some friends who said they would help her out. I've started to think this is a really bad idea. Every time she's come back from volunteering, she's brought this really horrid odor back into the house.
Oh, no.
The first time I thought she must have slipped and fell in some awful mess there or something, but it's been consistent. It also seems like caring for a fox would be too much work for her while managing school and work. As a reminder, she's 16 years old. I know she'll be really mad if I go back on my word and say we're not getting a fox, but I'm worried about the consequences of getting one. What should I do?
I actually saw the title of this one when I was looking, and I didn't read this story.
Yeah.
But I did see, isn't the title something like, would I be the a-hole if I went back on my word?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
No. I say no, he would not be. I recently had a conversation with my mother about this, that, the amount that parents owe their children when they're living at home, I think, is less than what some people would want you to believe it is. So I recently decided I wanted to start taking singing lessons, which is something my mom could have paid for me when I was a kid, but she didn't. There was a lot of things going on. I wanted to do a lot of things. There wasn't time and there wasn't money. But guess what? I've done it now that I'm an adult because I still want to do it. So I think he could tell this daughter very easily, you know what? It's great that you want to do this, but I think it's something you need to do on your own when you're an adult.
Yeah, go ahead.
I disagree. I think this is such a fantastic opportunity for the daughter. She's clearly passionate about this. And this could be kind of putting her on a path towards what she wants to do with the rest of her life. I mean, if she's already passionate enough about it, she's willing to go there, including the stench, to this preserve or whatever it is, this rescue place every day, and she's willing to go out and physically do the labor to build an enclosure. I mean, she's clearly passionate about this. And I think if you find something that your kids are passionate about, it's so rare for them to be that strongly passionate about something. They're willing to do this level of work. I think you should totally support it. I think that you would be crushing her dreams. She's clearly really into foxes. This could be the kind of thing that she ends up studying at a university, that she ends up doing fox rescues her entire life. I say let her run with her passion.
I think I'm somewhere in between. I think he shouldn't have made the promise in the exact way that he did in the first place. I think encouraging her to try it out at a rehabilitation center or whatever, I think that part was a great idea. And I think, encouraging her to do research and try it out and all of that kind of stuff and kind of set her on that path is great. I think saying if you research or if you volunteer for 3 months, that's setting the bar too low to like get her own fox at her house. Clearly, parents didn't think this through, right?
Yeah.
He said he did 1 day of research. Didn't realize how much they stink, because apparently they stink a lot. It's the urine mostly, but they also spray and that kind of stuff, and it's apparently terrible. And doing a little bit of separate research, I've read that these rehabilitation centers, like if you end up wanting to volunteer to foster a fox at your house, they end up like sending you home with jars of fox pee and tell you to have it in your house for a couple of weeks first.
So you know what it's going to smell like.
That's
awesome.
So, there's that part of it. So clearly didn't do a lot of research. I think if he had said something more along the lines of, I don't think we can really have a pet fox right now, but it would be a good idea for you to do this volunteering and do, and that kind of stuff. And then maybe when you're an adult, then you'll be able to do it,
Sure.
So kind of the compromise, because you were saying this is more of a thing she needs to do when she's an adult. I do think having her own fox is something she needs to do as an adult, but it's good to kind of set her on the path earlier. If this is something she's really passionate about right now, then, kind of get her on that path. So I think he's kind of unfairly raised her expectations.
Yeah. I think he's still an a-hole, but maybe not for what the reason he thinks.
Yeah, like going back, I mean...
And that may be too strong of a word.
Right. Well, and like if he went to her and is like, we're never getting over, and start, like that would be not a good way to let her down.
I think you make a good point about the smell, because when he said yes initially, he probably was unaware of that smell.
Yeah.
And I think it's reasonable not to want your house to smell like fox urine.
Yeah.
And for him to present it that way would be the best argument, in my opinion. Something else that I think is worth considering. I mean, especially if they're able to keep it all outdoors, maybe the smell won't be inside the house so much. And maybe
from what I understand,
she can have special clothes that she wears when she's with the fox or something.
From what I understand, the smell is strong enough that it would make a very
having
small
a skunk
difference
in the neighborhood type thing. Yeah. But I mean, another thing to consider, the girl's 16. I mean, she's only in the house for 2 to 3 more years. I mean, if this is something they can bear for 2 to 3 years, I still say let her do her passion.
Well, this brings up another point. I am willing
to concede the smell.
Yeah. I mean, this brings up another point. If she's only going to be in the house for 2 or 3 years, what do they do with the fox when she moves away to college?
Right.
So I think it's bad timing for that reason too. Another one of the reasons why this story was interesting to me is because I also have kind of throughout my life latched on to ideas of exotic pets, right? And for me, it's kind of an autistic thing. I don't know if this girl is autistic or not, right? But I tend to develop fixations on things, right? If an idea gets its hooks into me, then like that idea has to play itself out somehow.
Sure.
And kind of the trick of navigating that for me has been, how do I let this idea work its way through me without like making huge commitments that I'll regret later, right?
Like having a house that smells like fox urine.
Exactly. So not to say that this is the case with the daughter. Right. It sounds like I left this detail out. It sounds like part of why she got this idea is because she had seen some social media accounts of people who are fostering foxes.
Which my daughter watches also. Really likes foxes.
So kind of made the idea look glamorous to her, Well,
or like kind of like that Australian show where they foster koalas. I mean, they look adorable and stuff, but koalas have all sorts of issues.
It's probably not even legal.
Yeah.
Well, so, I've kind of ended up going down a pet rabbit hole, sort of. I've always loved owls. And then kind of this love for owls kind of went dormant for a while. And then we got chickens 5 years ago or so, and kind of made me realize I kind of just like birds in general.
So are chickens raptors?
They are not raptors.
Okay,
No.
I was
But
curious.
just kind of made me interested in birds in general again. And then I watched a video on social media, about falconers.
Right.
And falconers who have owls and falconers who have peregrine falcons and that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I could have an owl, right? And then the idea kind of got its hooks in me, and I'm looking up all of a sudden, like, what do I need to do to get licensed as a falconer? And what do I, fortunately I have a good support system in my wife who tells me, stop going down this rabbit hole. It's not happening right now, right? Or else I would have gone further down into the rabbit hole. But, did end up finding kind of a reasonable compromise of a coworker told me about a raptor research nonprofit that takes volunteers to present their ambassador birds at educational events. And it took me a few years to kind of get on their waiting list and get through their waiting list and get onboarded and stuff. But now I volunteer at this raptor research nonprofit, and it's
so cool.
It's really fun. It's a good way for me to scratch that itch. And I'm learning how, I'm not really learning how to take care of them yet, but I'm learning how to handle them. And kind of learning if it's something that I want to,
Right.
So it's like, maybe in 10 or 20 years, I'll be in a different life situation where it would make more sense, where I could go through the long process of being licensed as a falconer, and then at that point I would have had the experience, because, going back to the story of the fox, 3 months isn't enough time to get experience to take care of a fox by yourself.
Right.
And it wouldn't be for, an owl or any of those things either.
I wonder if they could find a compromise. I wonder if there's another animal that they could research together that would be less stinky but still exotic. Something that would be, because it sounds like she doesn't just want a boring typical cat or dog or something like that.
Well, when I talked about my singing, I have a different problem. Rather than autism, the ADHD urge is more to latch onto something for a short period of time. So the amount of hobbies and the things that I did as a teenager were very numerous. I took violin lessons. I took clarinet lessons. I took French horn. I did trumpet for a while. So I think singing was something that my mom was like, listen, there's so many things you can do.
There's no instrument rental for that one.
Yeah, but I did have opportunities to sing, and I had lots of opportunities for music. I went to choirs, things like that. And I think where she has this opportunity to go to a shelter and work with animals, I wouldn't have even thought that opportunity existed.
Yeah, maybe double down on that.
Yeah, that's
maybe
what
it's
get her
great.
to spend even more time there.
It's great that they're taking her at age 16, because a lot of those, some of those kinds of places will take teenagers and some won't. Right. So the fact that she found one that will take her as a teenager is awesome. I think the dad clearly needs to say no.
But unfortunately, I have to agree with you.
The way that he says no is going to be the kicker, right? And I think he needs
what determines if he's the a-hole. Yeah.
Right. He needs to acknowledge. He needs to apologize. That he made a promise like that without doing his due diligence first.
Right. Which that in itself is a good lesson for her to learn, that you really need to research before you make commitments.
And honestly, children, like all humans, need to learn to deal with disappointment.
It's
and sometimes being, disappointed by reality.
Yeah. And I think some kind of compromise can be reached, especially, I'll something along the lines of, I'll continue to support you volunteering at this place, even if I don't know if she drives herself or if he drives her, or, if, she wanted to volunteer more if they would need to make accommodations with their family schedule or something like that. But, making it clear to her that, I understand that this is important to you right now, and it's okay that it's important to you, and we'll support that. And I'm not trying to brush it all under the rug or whatever. Yeah.
But I really think that we shouldn't sacrifice to too much of an extent for our children. I think, to me, maybe for some people it wouldn't be a sacrifice, but to me, an intense smell in my house would be too much of a sacrifice for me to make.
That's too. And
if a child's passion sacrifices the family's quality of life because of monetary issues, I don't think that's reasonable.
I read one of the commenters said something along the lines of, okay, she says she has a part-time job and she can contribute money every month. If she starts having a fox at the house, she will not have a job anymore because she will smell so badly that they will fire her. And they were serious.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
That's funny.
It's something to think about for sure. Yeah. And
I'm gonna have to tell my daughter that because her love of foxes it may veer into that someday.
This is an actual realistic scenario for you.
So we'll nip it in the bud.
Well, good. I think we've solved their problem then also. Yeah. So for my story, I pulled this one off of Reddit also. I'm going to read you the head or the title here, and I'm going to keep their ages in there because I think that is a little bit relevant to the story. So it says, a 23-year-old female husband, a 31-year-old male, shaved our cat for no reason. This is really effing weird, and I'm not sure what to do from here. When I woke up this morning, the cat had practically no fur. There are stubby patches on her body, and the legs, head, and tail still have their fur, but most of the rest is clean sheared off. I obviously asked my husband what the heck happened. We're the only people here, and she's a strictly indoor cat. He was very nonchalant. He said she was shedding too much and he was tired of the hair everywhere. So he just shaved her instead of brushing more or something. She's a short-haired cat and it's not shedding season either. There's really not that much hair. And even if that wasn't the case, who shaves a cat? That does not sound comfortable for them and he could have easily injured her. I checked her over and her skin seems fine, but still. I also asked how he did it. He first used a pair of scissors to cut the fur down, then used a heavy-duty razor he ordered online. He never thought to mention wanting to do this. Just went ahead and did it.
He has put thought into it if he ordered a razor.
Right?
Obviously meditated, yeah.
Of course, I would have shut the idea down if he brought it up.
Yeah.
Then the other thing gets better. The other thing is a few weeks ago, our downstairs neighbor's cat turned up shaved too. It's an outdoor cat. I saw it like that and asked the neighbor what happened. She said she had no idea. The cat usually roams around a lot, but will come home a few times a day for food. And it came back like that one morning. The neighbor told me she assumed it was kids or something. Now I'm forced to wonder if my husband had anything to do with it because this was so bizarre and unnecessary to me. I have no actual proof. It's just a very strange coincidence. My husband doesn't want to talk about it and snapped at me to stop bugging him.
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah. He said it's not a big deal and that lots of people shave their cats. Well, I'm sure some people do. I know it's not lots. I'm not happy about this. She's technically both ours since we live together. Finally a married couple that actually considers things together. But I've had her since I was 19, first living on my own. That was long before I met him, and I still consider her my cat. I feel like he went and did something behind my back, because he did something behind her back, when it wasn't his decision to make. Maybe that's dramatic. I don't know why, but it's bothering me. Is there anything more I should do? Am I overreacting?
That is a weird story. That's the kind of story that I read on Reddit and I wonder, is this real?
It's like anytime you see something filmed on Reddit, you always have to ask the question, why were they filming?
Yeah.
If you can't think of a good reason, it's probably fake.
But I mean, it sounds like a plausible scenario, but
Yeah, well, so I had a cousin who, when she was, so she was young, she wasn't an adult like this man, thought it would be a good idea to trim her cat's whiskers, which
it was a bad idea.
Which totally disoriented the cat for months, because they use their whiskers for everything. It's a sixth sense of theirs basically is their whiskers. Now the thing with their whiskers is they don't just have whiskers on their face; they have whiskers all over their body. Yeah.
So if you shave all of their fur.
Yeah. So if this is a real story, then that cat is like that's
probably suffering.
A terrible thing to do to a cat. Yeah.
I'm really surprised. I mean, I'm not a cat person, but we had cats when I was growing up, and just my dad just getting their nails trimmed was not pleasant. To shave an entire cat.
The cat would actually sit there and let you do it. That's another reason why this might not be.
Yeah, I cannot think of a cat that would let someone shave them without making a ruckus. I mean, maybe if the wife wasn't home, but yeah, that's
a really good point, because that might be like this one's not real.
But we can work under the assumption it is.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that assumption, heck no, she's not overreacting.
No, it's like, short of, I'm sure we've all heard of terrible things being done to cats, right? Some people are just psychopaths, and there have been terrible things done to cats. This is like on the list of like
terrible things you could do to a cat.
I can understand that it would actually be terrible for the cat, but I don't know that it would be done with the intention of doing something terrible.
No, he probably didn't know, how disorienting that would be to a cat, but it is a big deal.
Yeah. And that's one reason why she wouldn't be overreacting.
Well, and she said she got the cat when she was 19, and that was before. Well, she said long before she knew her husband. Not that long. And she's only 23. Yeah, so that was only 4 years ago. So that means they're still kind of early in their marriage, early in their relationship. Even I would reach out to his parents and be like, "Is there a history of animal abuse?"
Yeah,
because that starts throwing up some red flags.
Well, and it's one thing. I mean, we haven't even mentioned this yet. It's one thing to do it to your own cat, but if the suspicion would be legitimate that he did it to the other cat.
I can't did it to the other cat.
I can't think of
that was his test subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like he doesn't like cats.
or he just has some mental health issues he needs to work through and get help with.
He's certainly hypersensitive to their shedding, right? Because she's saying it's a short-haired cat. She doesn't shed that much.
If it's about the shedding, if that's not just his excuse, so he can.
It's true, but why else would he do it?
Because he needs help. Because he needs help.
I think my advice to this person would be start couples therapy first, and then also what other red flags. I think it would depend on their relationship, that kind of thing. But I think couples therapy is just too weird. It's just too weird of a situation. And if he doesn't understand why it's weird,
that's also disturbing. Yeah. The fact that he's trying to make it seem like this is a normal thing. Lots of people shave their cats. Have either one of you ever seen someone shave their cat?
Maybe he saw there's breeds of cats that have no hair. And maybe he saw pictures of those.
And I've seen dogs that are shaved, for show.
Right.
But
for sure. But yeah,
cats would be shaved for
cats.
lice, wouldn't they? Isn't that under what circumstance would you shave?
Or a surgery, maybe you would shave an area around the surgery.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's a very high percentage chance that he saw pictures of what's the breed? It's sphinxes or something like that. Saw pictures of those breeds and thought that they were shaved instead of just being born hairless.
Instead of being born hairless.
Very weird.
Yeah. No, I still think that she should do a little investigating herself, though, and find out if there is a history of animal abuse or weird behavior with animals, because that could kind of lead to bigger things.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with people getting married young or whatever. But it sounds like they got married without her knowing how he felt about her cat.
Sure, yeah. Without that discussion.
What's the song? I know your son sang it. Oh, my kids like it now too. Because it's got about a girl named Julie and the boyfriend is allergic to cats.
Oh.
In a play.
Yes. Yeah. So that it's from the Theory of Relativity, and it's a very funny song where he talks all about being allergic to cats, but being totally in love with this guy's daughter and wanting to make the relationship work somehow, even though he might die from the cats.
Yeah. But he's also never told her that.
Oh yeah, he's never told her. That's
Oh,
right. I forgot that part of the song. Oh man, we gotta listen to that again sometime.
It's a good one.
Julie loves cats, and I love Julie. So she tickles their toes, and I smile as my throat starts to close. But I vow that she'll never suppose I'm allergic to cats.
Okay, well, I have one more. This one is, am I the a-hole for being upset at my pet sitter / friend? So this one, she says, for context, I live with my parents who have 2 cats, and I have a rabbit. Her care is extremely important to me, as well as my parents' cats, so we knew we'd have to start looking early and find someone we trust. They're going out of town to visit her sister. She says, we eventually settled on my closest friend of 13 years, and they settled on agreeing her $500. She also has a boyfriend, and we knew he'd be helping, and this wasn't a problem. So months before the trip, she wrote out a 3-page care sheet for the details and the animal. Mm-hmm. We did a house tour with them. They were very diligent in explaining all the details. I said I would prefer if they stayed at the house because the rabbit's routine is very specific. But I let them know that if they needed to leave for emergencies, that would be okay. And it all seemed well, so they proceeded with the trip. Then things became an issue the first night when we arrived at my sister's apartment. When I got an update about how things were, I asked if they were staying at the house, and they told me they were not because it's too hot. This bothered me because our house cools off a lot at night and the weather was going to cool off later. And during the house tour, it was hot and they never brought that issue up. So once again, I told them I wanted them to stay at the house and only wanted them to leave if it was an emergency. Friend got defensive and upset, led to an argument that made her feel as though I didn't trust her. I tried telling her it wasn't personal, asked for updates because I hadn't gotten any later that night. She adds one of the cats was sick, so they were specifically concerned about the cat. I was left on red a couple of times and responses were extremely long. Response times were extremely long, but eventually she let me know everyone was okay. But I was very worried and spent the night in tears. I did not feel comfortable with them being there after that. My parents didn't trust them either, so we looked for other options, but we decided to see how it went the next day. The next day we got no updates. We called and texted, but we told her we were concerned, but eventually the friend convinced us she could do it. Throughout the rest of the trip, I didn't hear any updates from either of them unless I asked. There were no pictures and videos, which added more stress and worry about the animals. Eventually, my friend's boyfriend reached out to ask how they'd get paid, as well as other questions that made us think they didn't properly read the instructions. My family is extremely upset, and all agreed this friend has never treated me very well. So, am I the a-hole for being upset?
No.
No, I mean, if all of these expectations were clearly communicated and the friend agreed to them, then no, she's perfectly justified in being upset.
So that was my original thought, but I was surprised by this one because of the comments.
Okay.
Many comments said you are not. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. You are. Many of the comments said you are the a-hole. And one of the top comments said, for $85 a day, you expect them to do your bidding and only leave for emergencies. Pay peanuts, get monkeys. Which I think was
okay, I think the expectation that they're going to spend the entire day in the house, yeah, that is unreasonable.
Yeah.
But the expectation that, like, they'll quickly snap a couple of pictures and text them over and be like, hey, look, here's your animals nice and safe and happy. That to me is not unreasonable.
Yeah. So I think in the comments, many of the responses were like, if you needed that detailed of instructions, if it was that detailed of a job, you needed to hire a real pet sitter.
Sure.
Yeah.
And pay real pet sitter money, like
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah.
Pay peanuts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is a concern. I myself am a moderate pet lover. I would say I like pets, but I'm not a huge pet lover. If I had a rabbit that needed 3 pages worth of instructions,
Rabbits are actually like really high maintenance pets.
which I wouldn't know because I've never had a rabbit, but
they are.
I personally would not if they're that high maintenance.
I don't know this from firsthand experience. I only know this from a YouTuber that I trust that's a biologist and who goes through the care needs of pets very thoroughly, and just everything that he laid out that rabbits need for the care or whatever. They're very involved pets if you're going to take care of them properly. So the 3 pages of instructions doesn't surprise me. I think, obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know how much confidence this friend exuded, right? If she seemed like she got everything that she was saying and, seemed like, if she could follow the instructions and all of that stuff, and if she's like, okay, I'm good handing this off, then yeah, I think it's reasonable to expect that, the things that I said and the expectations are, and obviously $500 for a stay-in pet sitter for how many days is
I don't know.
Not very much.
Not very much. But it's also, a friend who's not a professional pet sitter, and, I don't know, I guess there's a valid point that, you shouldn't expect a professional pet sitter quality job if you're not getting a professional pet sitter. But also, the 3 pages of what you need to do to take care of the rabbit, just follow those. You know? It's not just read.
Yeah.
I'm probably the least. No, I think I'm the only one here who really just doesn't like pets at all.
I mean, other than the recent bird kind of
and bees. Are that a pet or is that more a crop?
Well, so let me say what I was going to say. Other than recently being obsessed with raptors and stuff. Well, even then, I'm kind of more interested in working animals.
Oh, sure.
Right. So we have chickens, but they're kind of pets, but then also we get eggs from them. Right. I've got bees, and they're less pets and more of a hobby.
Right.
And then we get honey from them every year.
I know. I heard you guys express interest in goats.
No. No, I hate goats.
That's right.
Maybe I heard
pigs. We've been interested in pigs.
Maybe I heard you talk about goats negatively then. I know I've heard you talk about goats in the past.
But and then even with if down the road, if I were to be licensed as a falconer, it wouldn't be just to have an owl as a pet, because an owl makes a terrible pet. It would, or a falcon or a merlin or whatever. It would be to, as a hobby, go hunting with the bird, right? So even then, they're still kind of a working animal,
right?
So yeah, I'm not actually
not
a
big
huge
pet person either.
I'll cuddle with the cat, but
when we went on our family vacation last month, we were only gone for 2.5 days, or was that this month? I don't know. It was recently. I don't think I gave 2 thoughts about our dog we left at home, because honestly, if he had run away while we were at home, it would have been sweet. I don't have to buy food for it every month. The kids would have been devastated, though. That part would have made me feel bad. but I just don't even understand the mindset of wanting to check in on your pets as often. That's almost a ridiculous amount of checking in as far as I'm concerned, but I know that there's pet lovers out there
with
who
a
for them
sick
it's not
cat
ridiculous.
too, right? Like if one of the cats
Yeah.
is sick, that makes a little more sense.
Sure.
I think there's two parts to this that make this situation bad. I think she has over expectations about, the care of the pets. And I think the friend is not considering how important this job is to the other friend. So I do think, maybe you've outgrown this friend. Maybe this friend and you are not, as compatible as you were 13 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, which happens all the time.
Yeah. But also, maybe, I would not pay $500 for someone to watch my pet, but I also don't have any pets that I can't, we have an arrangement with the in-laws. We watch their dog, they watch our dog. That's basically how it's always been.
Well, we watch the neighbors' pets all the time when they go on vacation. They generally pay about $10 a day.
Yeah.
But we're not pet sitting. We just go over, make sure they have some food.
Right.
It takes like 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night.
Yeah.
And our kids do all the work, so they're just thrilled that and for them, $10 a day, that's like a major windfall.
Yeah. And I remember watching cats and probably being paid about that, but it was like, go refill their food dish.
Yeah.
Not
exactly.
even, don't even empty the litter.
Right.
Well, and part of this may be me. I often get frustrated at people when I write out like big long documents, and then it becomes obvious to me that they didn't read any of it. Like it sounds like from what she said that like they had details about how they were going to be paid in there, and then the boyfriend's like, okay, so how are we going to be paid? So it's like, okay, so you didn't read any of the instructions that I wrote out for you, right? So for me, it's like really easy. Just read the thing and just do it. And this is going on a little bit of a tangent, but I remember reading once about Van Halen. They had a bit of a reputation while they were touring for throwing big fits when they didn't have, the right color of M&M in their snack bowl backstage whenever they would go to a new location. And, it turned out that there was a reason for this. The show, when the show would be touring around, it was kind of state of the art. It had a lot of really heavy lighting equipment,
also pyrotechnics, I believe.
And those kinds of things, and it had to be set up in a very particular way, or else it would ruin the stage, or all sorts of kinds of things. And so they would have this big old manual basically of directions written out of this is everything that we need before we even get there, so that everything can be set up the way it needs to be set up, and everything can be safe, and all of the rest of that. And no one would ever read it, and no one would ever do it. And so they ended up putting, slipping somewhere in the middle, the instruction of, there will be only brown M&Ms in a bowl in our dressing room.
Right.
And if they got there and there were not brown M&Ms in the bowl in the dressing room, then they knew that they didn't read it.
And then also the message they're sending is like, well, if they're going to throw this kind of fit over the brown M&Ms, what are they going to do when the pyrotechnics go wrong?
Yeah. So that was kind of their way of like setting the expectation that you read our instructions and you just do what it says.
Right.
And this isn't the exact same thing, but I feel like, I don't know.
Just from, I looked up an article, it says so it's no brown M&Ms. The clause was they wanted no brown M&Ms.
Okay.
It says whenever they found brown M&M candies backstage, they immediately did a complete line check, inspecting every aspect of the sound, lighting, and stage setup to make sure it was perfect.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I feel like depending on the quality of the care instructions, like maybe they weren't. I feel like 3 pages.
Right.
I feel like they're probably good quality instructions. Yeah. She should just follow them.
But especially in this day and age where TaskRabbit or care.com, those kind of places exist. I feel like asking a friend to do this very specific job was maybe not the right call. It sounds like they won't do it in the future. So.
Probably. Yeah. This has been Be in Your Bonnet. We believe that sometimes the sweetest nectar of wisdom comes from the most unexpected sources.
Remember, here on Be in Your Bonnet, you, the audience member, are not just a listener, you're not just a viewer, you're part of the hive. The world is filled with buzzing minds and unsolicited wisdom. Why not join the conversation?
And if you have a problem you would like us to solve for you, please comment on YouTube, tag us on social media, or email us at mailbag@buzzcastmedia.com, and you may be featured on a future episode.
We have new episodes releasing every first and third Friday of the month on YouTube or your favorite podcast service. Thank you, and until we meet again, this has been Be in Your Bonnet.